There's a lot of them with no moon. This one? 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 I pointed at that one.
It's really not like. He's not like a level. He's a tiger. That deep.
Alright, what's up? How's it going, peoples? You have a good couple days? Get some work done? Oops, that's the wrong one. We want this one. Alright, so last minutes. Alright, so we've got, let's see how many people have turned stuff in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. Oh, 7. Zane's in there too. Alright, 7 people. Struggling with the poster. Yeah. Why? What's going on? Well, you say you're always struggling, Sierra. So I'm starting to not believe that you're actually struggling. You're just having regular Sierra time. So don't stress. It's not up yet. It's not up yet. I'll put it up today.
It's her computer.
Alright. Sorry, y'all. Let me get some stuff here. Alright, guess we'll just start at the top, right? Should we start at the top or should we do Taylor's first? We go down to the bottom. Start at the top? Okay. Alright, so we got our thumbnails, color comp. I guess this one is our final. Alright. That's not mine's, right? No, it's not. This is not yours. Alright, so with this one, okay, with this one, I mean, I like the color choices that you put together, right? No, I need it. Sure. Alright, so with this, let's see, it's a little crooked on the paper part, so hold on, let's try and turn it so that it's nice and straight. Alright. Okay, so with this one, it's looking, I mean, it looks pretty straight, right? We used some good guidelines, so that's good. You're staying on with them. Whoops. Alright, so that's good.
He is busy. No one can play with you. The only person who can talk to you is Sargent and Tyler.
So that's good. I like the fact
Cover
that
your mouth, nasty.
I like the fact that you are staying online on the guidelines, right? We've got that. You know, there's some spaces here though. You're a little bit under. You know, a little bit. But I think that you will be fine if you went ahead and thickened the outline. So if you gave it a thicker stroke, I think that would be better. And I would say thicker on pretty much each one of these needs to be, no, you know what, on the neon, right, I think the thin line's actually working. I think you have a wrong color though. I really do believe that you should have went with more of a neon color, you know, like one of these very bright.
Are you okay? It's okay. Feel this. Oh my god.
Right, if you had this very neonish color to really push the idea of neon, right? So it's very important that you use the right colors, right? And it didn't need to be green. It's just I know that this green will really pop up. What? Oh, how are we on that? Right? So being able to just come in and say, all right, I'm sure you had a very bright green though. Like if you were like, oh, well, I have this green, right? So there is that. You could have also used orange, right? Whichever one, but you definitely wanted to make sure that you had more of a neon color because that would really push it. And then actually even, you see how this one's nice and thin? I think that would have worked even better. So no real outline, just the stroke, right? Just the stroke of a very neon color. That would have been a lot stronger for this because then we could focus on the nachos, right? But you still have to make sure that you're staying on your own guideline, right? You want to make sure that everything stays where it's supposed to. You got some going over the top and some going underneath. All right? You want to make sure that you stay on those guidelines. And it seems like you here with nachos, you have like this color, this weird color thing going on here. Right? I don't know if that's the case because it's a very blurry picture. But
Close out, baby.
But if that's what you're going with, you should definitely, you know, make that a nice gradient so that we can fill it. We can see it. Right? But then again, I think that having a gradient would have been nice. If you had a gradient for the nachos. Here. Let's see if we can't make this happen real quick. I'm going to do a couple letters just to kind of give the feel real quick. Add. Okay, like I said, we're just going to do these three, right? That way you can see it. Alright, so I'm going to try and pick the colors that you already have, right? I think that you're letting your materials control you, and that's never good. Okay? You want to make sure that, and I know, trust me, I know that we are in this situation right now, but you know, you got to use what you have, but you got to make it work right. Right? So you have the opportunity to use digital, and I think that, you know, to really push this, you would have had to do that. All right, let's drop this down a little bit. All right, so something like that, so that we feel the nacho, right? Even maybe a little bit more, so like that, you know, so we can feel the yellow and the orange, and so we really get to feel the idea of the cheese. And then you could come in with a light yellow or orange and put in some of the highlights for the goo type thing, the nacho cheese goo that you have, right? So you really want to make sure you do that. It's interesting that you had this little character here. You know, you're like, oh, okay. But the main thing that's really missing is the name, right? We needed her name here somewhere. Because now it's just Neon Nachos. These could be anybody's nachos, right? Something, my digital something, pop saying, an error, I don't know why. I have no idea. You're going to have, like, as far as something went wrong, I have no idea. Also, with this, something else that you want to consider, right? If you want to leave those nachos there, that's fine. But maybe something... So once again, I'm just taking what you already have here, right? And you got to pay attention to the idea of the shapes, right? The size of the shapes and hierarchy of shapes. What are we trying to look for? Composition, all those things, right? Because what you have here is it's off center, okay? Because right now we have this open space here, right here. We have this open space right here, all this negative space, right? We have all this negative space here. Oh no, don't have it anymore. But we have all this negative space. Went back too far. I guess not. Alright, anyway. You have all that negative space right there, and there's really no reason for it. I'm going to come in again, make the selection real quick. Alright, so we take that. So we're going to take that, and what we're going to do is we're going to make it bigger. Alright, so you've got something like that, and then you can readjust the nacho, the purple one, and stuff like that. But you want it to be big, right? So that it lines up. Because remember, right, you're trying, what you have established is this kind of, right, that kind of logo. Yes, I understand. But I mean, you can come in, right, and you'd have to readjust this shape so that it's not all huge. Right? This shape would be different. It would be a lot smaller. Right? You would adjust it. So if you make it small, if you made the chips and stuff more proportionate, then you'd be fine. But the thing is that this is, once again, you know, this is your shape. Right? That's the logo you want. You don't want to have this logo. Right? This is not... Okay, that's not the logo we're making, or it's not the logo that you've made. You want to have a rectangle shaped logo, so you need to give us a rectangle logo. We don't want to have all this negative space here because it's not serving a purpose. It's just negative space. So we don't want that, right? So that's why we'd make this bigger. Okay, make sense? And you still need, you know, you could have even come in and just put the name, right? Could put the name right there, name, apostrophe, right? All right. Let's see what else we got. Moving on. All right. Forgot to look to see who this was. Whose was this? Yeah, brand. All right. So the first thing I want to tell you is that this looks like, it looks like pizza. It's not too long. You got to make it work. That's the thing. You got to figure it out. That's why you're the designer. N nachos. So once again, this looks like pizza, right? So this part right here, those look like pizza. And I understand that you're probably like, oh, well, you know, the different toppings and stuff like that, and that's great. But right now, that specific design is pizza. And then you're leaving out words. Like, I know that it was, so we had, where is it? We had nice and nerdy, right? So now we have an N where we're missing information, right? We don't know what this N stands for. So we're instantly missing information. So that's not working either, right? And then because you have, this is a weird layout to have your logo, right? You got to remember, think about this in shapes, right? And then you have this, right? That's the logo that you've got going on, right? If you look at it at its most basic shapes, that's what you have going on. There's not really a flow to it. It's not overlapping. It doesn't seem like they're connected. It seems like they're two separate pieces and they're not working together. Okay? So if you actually wanted to have this circle, right? And you're like, okay, I want to have my nachos in that circle, right? You can, if you wanted to, you know, bring in your rectangle so that you have a little bit underneath and it goes like that, right? So you have, so ultimately your design is this, right? Ultimately, that's your design. You still have this rectangle design, right? So you put the circle and another rectangle inside of the rectangle. So that's your design. And the way that you keep it that way is that you have a little bit up here, right? And then you have a little bit down here. So it's not completely centered, but it's giving the same amount of attention to both of your elements, okay? And now with that said, you have to give us information. N and N is not enough, right? It's not, because we don't know what the first N stands for, and you're going N what? Like what is it and what? And it can't be N by itself, right? Letter N by itself, nachos. That's not the way that works, right? So we have to make sure that you're giving us enough information. You know, if this was going to be nerdy, and then your N would have to be, you know, in the center, and then nachos, right? Because then that would make more sense. Or nice. But see, nerdy and nachos, I mean, you can make that happen, right? Nerdy and nachos. So you can be nerdy and nachos, and that's like the name of your company or whatnot. You know, that would be cool. So there's that. But you gotta actually pick the name, right? And I think the one that's really missing is neon. Like, you know, you're like, oh, well, these are neon. So if you said neon and nachos, right, that would be something. So neon and nachos, right? But it fits inside of your shape. The very the most important thing that you need to remember is that you are making shapes, and you're trying to make a harmony within these shapes so that you can actually, so they actually feel as though they belong together. Okay? If you don't, then there's no harmony, and it doesn't work. Okay? So you really got to give us whatever this N is supposed to be. We need it. We need to have that information. Okay? And then you'd have to move this over so that it would be in the center, so that we have that stacking, which would really work. But then you can also try and do something interesting with it, right? So if you had this, right, you had this kind of text block, right? And then you had another text block, right? So you had those two text blocks, and now you're trying to figure out how can I get that N in there to make it interesting, right? To combine the two. You know, you could put it in the background. Oops. Right, and you're like, N. Right, and so you have that N coming down. Right? Like N. Right, and then we're gonna go with nerdy and nachos. Right? So then you could have it in the background. This could be a different color, right? So that interacts. So if you, let's just say you pick this color, right? That can go all the way down and then pop back out, so that we have an interaction. We have an interaction with the first two words, right? And then we get to see that big old N, and we're like, oh yeah. That, you know, nerdy and nacho, just something to try and create a type of unity between the words, just trying to make it a little interesting and give us all the information that we need. Okay? Does that make sense? You guys got it?
Excellent.
Good? Good? Okay. Let's see what else we got.
Spaghetti.
Alright, let's down this. Whoops. I wanted to download it. Download it. Why won't you let me download it? Okay. Yours really doesn't want me to download it at all. Save the image as, I guess. See what we do there. Save. Why are you opening? Why? I don't know why this one's not open. Why it won't just download. I don't know what you did. Alright. It's alright. We'll do something for it. Alright. Don't worry. We'll not let the technology win. Alright. Nice and nerdy. Okay. I buy that. Post it on the... Okay. No worries. So, I mean, I like this. It's pretty simple, right? It's pretty easy. I don't know if nachos is coming across enough because you only have four, like, right? They're all each in one corner. You know, I think the reason why is because this should come up here, right? Because then we would put that together. So it's nice and nerdy, and then we see your nachos, right? The only real I think that would be the easiest one, right? Is just to move your font up to the top so we read, right? in the hierarchy of shapes, even though that the symbol is the biggest because we read from left to right, top to bottom, we would start to do nice and nerdy first and then see the nachos, right? The problem is that because of the way that you've positioned the nacho chips, this looks like an H, right? It looks like a creative H. Right? Can be an N, could look like a slanted H, right? Especially like if it was more of a, you know, if your angle was a little different. See what I mean? Oops. Right? If your angle's a little different, then all of a sudden we have a different letter. And it's funny how just a little bit of movement, just that much, will instantly change everything, right? Okay, you guys see that? And just that little angle right there makes it so that it makes it an H instead of an N. And we don't want that. So all you really need to do, right, would be to drop this down. Whoops. Would be to drop this down. Right? So there would be an N. Right? Very creative looking N. And it's just you drop that one down a little bit. That's it. Okay? Because at first I was going to tell you that you should change your nachos, but that's not what's necessary anymore, right? You can just drop this cheese down to here, right? Just drop that cheese and you'll be fine. Sounds silly. Right? Do you guys see that? But I love the font, right? Font's real nice. Whoops. I want to check your... So, it's not staying... You don't have everything staying in your guidelines. You have some of it coming up and down. But like I said before, when you're doing stuff like that, if it's like, oh, well, it was intentional to kind of like move it up and down to make it more playful or something like that, you have to make it look more intentional. Like it has to look as though you push this one up far enough so it doesn't look like a mistake. Okay? So you want to watch that, but I think the font works really well for this. And then if you move it to the top and then drop that cheese just a little bit down, this would be great. Real easy. And then once again, this is your, right? Then you got something more like this going on. Right? That's your shape. Yeah. Okay? Good job. All right, let's see what else we got. Drop this one. Oh no, it did load it. All right. Weird. It was hard to go with the guideline with the rulers because I was handwriting it, and so we just keep on going over the line. Yep. Right. Ooh, keep the layers. Yes, keep the layers. Nachos. Alright, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't know, I think it's pretty simple. and it's not really pushing on the, I mean, it's bright, but it's not pushing on the neon. It's just very yellow, right? Like nachos. But, oh, there's a lot of stuff here, and you saved all the layers. Isn't that nice? All right, so we're gonna mess around with this now. So first off, I really don't think that this is necessary. This one. Alright, I don't think you need that one. And then this one. Probably needs to be bigger so that it can become the mascot. Right, we're going to line it up. Try to at least. Right? That way we get to see your creation, right? We get to see this character. And we're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I buy that. Right? The one thing, so I don't have the fonts that you used, so I'm just going to draw over it. But with this, I do believe you needed a stronger, darker orange. Okay, for your drop shadow here. It's not it either. Maybe like this. I was wondering why I couldn't see it. Alright. So if we drop, right? So we go there, and just watch how this yellow is going to pop out. Alright, see that here? Let's do another. I'm just gonna do another. Oh, it's not on top of everything. There we go. Alright, so we're just going to do that. Oops, sorry. Alright, so we're just going to do these 3 letters here real quick. Alright. See? See how that pops out? Just pops out really fast. Bam! Just by having a darker color, right? Because the thing that you have to remember, color theory is really going to be your friend, right? And the idea that if you want something to pop out in color, right? And if it's lighter, you need to put a darker color behind it. And then that'll instantly pop out, right? And so since you're using these color families, if you use an orange, right? Because orange is definitely already in the darker value as far as colors go when it comes to yellow and orange, which one would be brighter. So what you need to do is you put that orange behind it, you make it a little bit darker, and then instantly your yellow pops, right? Because the way that you have it now with just this yellow and then a darker yellow, this mustard yellow, it's making it harder and harder to read, right? Like we're really good as far as, you know, when we look at it on the computer, but remember, it's going to be, you know, on a business card. So as it gets smaller, right, it becomes harder to read. But if you look at the N and the IN with the orange, that still pops out even as you get smaller. Right? See what I mean? So, the idea of this is actually pretty cute. I like, you know, we've got the nerdy nacho chip, so that's cool. But I think that it's just we're missing something, right? Because that, when you look at that, you're like, oh, that's the mascot, right? That's the mascot of this company, and so you're like, all right, it doesn't matter, right? As far as the glasses and the braces and all that stuff. But if you instantly tell them, you know, it's like these nerdy nachos, you're like, oh, okay, it's nerdy nacho, right? And then it somehow morphs into a name, and you're like, oh, okay, great, right? So this is, like I said, the design is very simple. It does work. I think that you could push it a little bit further than what you already had. I would watch your spacing though, right? As the letters get smaller, your spacing is really tight. But then when we get to nachos, because you were trying to make it fit, it got really big. So you need to play around with that. You might need to use a different font. Okay? But, you know, it's pretty easy. I mean, yeah, it's pretty easy, pretty simple. It works. It does work, right? It does work. I would try and push it a little further, though. And did you try... Yeah, you could try that. It's still on. Right, you might also... Oh, you know, you might have even come over here and did this, too. I don't know. You know, something weird. Okay? I don't think that's going to work. But it was just, you know, something different. You know, if this was maybe in a bowl, I don't know. But you could do that, because doing it right here is just really simple. Alright, cool. See what else we got. Oh, is Chris coming with the thunder again? Try and get that in there. Downloads. Alright, let's crop this in. I was going for food truck. Okay. I also didn't have a yellow marker, so it was a challenge. You have a computer though, right? Could have given you could have used a computer, and that would have been helpful. So, just saying, next time use a computer. So. Hi, how are you? Let's see, we were supposed to submit the thumbnails as well with this assignment. You can, I trust you, but, you know. So, when you need to watch your spacing, right? Because even if what you have going on right now, right? You have this kind of rectangular shape, which is fine, but the thing is that this... God, it's loud. The fact that this right here would need to come... Whoops. would need to come down.
Sargey! Sargey!
Alright, so we're going to stamp this here. We're going to try and get rid of this. Come on. Whoa. What happened there?
You broke it.
Apparently. Oh. I want to go to the stamp. There we go. Right? Okay. So, when we do that, so if we just... Oh. Close the door.
Close this door. Baby. Thank you. Close it.
Alright.
What's your music playing?
Alright, where was I? Okay, so I don't know why that. Anyway, see how just by bringing it in allows our picture to be a little bit closer together, obviously, but it doesn't seem as spaced out and unintentional, right? That's too far away when you look at it. You want to try and condense this in because your element, your illustrative elements are really big, and then you have this very lonely nice over here, right? So if this comes down, right, we get a nice compact logo. And then I understand you have this bowl, and I guess it's supposed to be the nacho cheese, but it would be more... Oh wait, is this your N? Is this supposed to be your N? Chris, is this supposed to be like the nice n, right? The nice n nerdy? Is that what that was supposed to be? Okay. Then if that's the case, right, and you're trying to make it look so like this is that N, this N needs to be centered with the rest of your text, right? So you would need to have this kind of N here, right? But the problem that you're going to have is that they're not going to read it that way, because we know that it's supposed to be the abbreviation of and, but they're not necessarily going to see that, right? Because you've got this nacho cheese in this arc. And that's not, it's creative. It's creative. I just don't think that it's going to read. You saw how long it took me to understand that that was supposed to be your N. So I think that if you actually used this sauce, right, like you haven't, but if you kind of just gave us just a little bit more that it looked, so you came in and it just kind of looks like an N, right? You give us a little cheese nub up there, right? And you just kind of give us more of a stylistic N, right? So that might be something. And if it's a bowl, if it's supposed to be like a bowl of nacho cheese, I would definitely make it smaller. Right? Instead of so big. Because it kind of looks like a bucket. Right? We don't want that. So if you did like a smaller bowl, and maybe your end chip, right? Your end chip is here, but it says nice at the top. It has your graphic element in the middle, and then it says nerdy underneath. So we get, remember, thinking about your hierarchy of shapes, right? So the first thing you have, you're trying to do this rectangle, and within that rectangle you have other elements, right? So you'd have this, then we'll just do another one, make it easy, right? And then, so that way you'd have three separate elements. Instead of trying to combine these two, you actually let them be their own separate element, right? So then you have nice, nerdy, and then you can also have it so that your chip and your text, right? So you could actually have it so that this chip, right, kind of goes into your nice, it fills in with your nice, then you have your cheese, right, your bowl, and then nerdy, right? Does that make sense? Just saying that you have creative options to go with this that you could be doing, and I think that would be helpful. Also, if you wanted to try and push on the different font, the different usage of font, right, you could make this more streamlined, right? So it's just a very base font, and then you come in with your with nerdy being a more scriptive font, right? This definitely that would help, right? So we get nice and nerdy, so we're getting both sides of it. And I think that, as I think it was already mentioned, but this color right here would need to be a lot brighter, right? Needs to be a lot brighter, because right now it kind of looks like ketchup or ketchup or soup, right? So yeah, bigger chip. And also, if you remember what Sierra did with hers, let's see if it's still right. You see how her cheese, it's more of a yellowish orange, and then it has those salsa and the pepper bits inside. It'll give us more of a sense of actual nachos. Okay? And I know you said that you were working with the materials you had, but that's why the school got Photoshop available to everybody, right? So that you can come in and not have to worry about not having the right kind of materials. Because unlike being in school, when we could see one another, you could just go and pick up a new marker. If you're like, oh, this marker's not the right color, you could go pick it up. You don't necessarily have that option now, so don't fight the use of the computer, okay? And I know you sent me an email saying that you weren't in there. I checked, and your email address is there, and it's in the system. So unless that email that you sent, the email address that you sent me that email with is what you're logged into. So if you had already started an account with your student email, then that's when you might need to address with Adobe and say, hey, I had already started an account with my student account, and now they have me with access, so what can we do? And they'll be able to help you from there. Okay? We had someone else had that same issue, and they just had to contact Adobe and say, hey, look, I've already started an account with this email, and now with this happening, it's saying that I only have a personal account. I need it to get switched over, or they get to do whatever they need to do, because your email is part of the group. You're on there. Everything is working, or at least on my end, on what I can do for you. Okay? All right, let's see what else we got. Tuesday PDF. All right. Show the folder. Ooh. Oh, is that it? Oh, okay. Throwing me for these vector loops. Just need them as a JPEG. Because now, we got to load up Illustrator. Okay, so while that's loading, we're going to go to someone else, because it's going to take a minute to get Illustrator up and running. We'll go to Zane. Let's rotate this. Adjustments. Image rotation, counterclockwise. All right, so when it comes to this one, this logo isn't actually telling us the company or who it belongs to. It's just saying this is a neon nacho. Yeah, it's a neon nachos. We need more information with this one, right? Even what would need to happen is you'd even need to have this nacho have a more neon color, the nacho chip itself, because right now it just seems as though the words neon and nachos was kind of printed onto the nacho chip, and it's not giving us any kind of information as far as the nice and nerdy, right? That it's new, who the company is that's making these nachos. All right, so this one definitely needs some more attention, because it's a base font, and as we talked about before, you know, what we're trying to do is get away from the idea of clip art, where it's just, here's my nacho chip, you know, here's my image that I made, and then bam, here's my text that happened. Okay, so we want to make sure that we actually start thinking about how we want the logo to look, right? Is it a horizontal rectangle? Is it a vertical rectangle? Is it a square? Whoops, you know, more of a square, sorry. There you go. Is it a square? Like, what do we do? Is it a circle? Right? Is my logo a circle? And you know, you have, oh look, I'm making a triangle, right? And you can do that. It's just there's not enough information being given here. Okay? So you got to give us more information, because right now it's not enough. Okay? Also, you got to stay with those guidelines. All right? The ones that you give yourself. You have a couple letters that are going on their own. They're working on their own lines, right? You can't do that. They all have to be on the same one, unless it's intentional, right? Like it's going from thin to thick, or they're moving up and down because you're illustrating stairs, or you know, whatever the case may be. I don't know, but you gotta, whatever guideline you're giving yourself, you need to stay with it. Okay. Illustrator should be up and running. Okay, I don't have the fonts. So here's the problem. This is why, unless you decide to embed the fonts into the image, then you're relying on the fact that whoever's opening it has the same fonts that you do, right? That's why I always ask for a JPEG or a PDF, because it flattens everything into one space. Right? Then I don't need the fonts. I don't need all the special effects that you might be putting on. I don't have that, right? So as you can see right here, Illustrator is going, hey, look, you're missing these fonts, and that's why they're in orange. I mean, in pink, right? It instantly tells you that there is something different here, which makes it really hard for me to actually critique it, because I don't know what kind of font you actually use. It could have worked better. So that's why I always stress I need a JPEG or a PDF, okay? Because when we're in class, I'm looking at your file. You're the one who has all the fonts. But if you're sending it to someone, this is a great example of, even if you're trying to get something printed, right? You're trying to get something printed and you send this file because they're like, oh, well, I want an Illustrator file. Well, you're like, all right, fine. And you send said Illustrator file to them. If they don't have the fonts, then it's not going to work. Also, if you're using 2020, and this is something that happens way too often, right? You will send your file, which you've upgraded to, at this point, 2020, right? And they're operating on CS6, right? Because the company didn't want to pay, they don't want to pay the monthly upcharge or the monthly fee. So now they're like, well, we paid for this a while back and it still works. So if you're trying to send that to them, you have to save it backwards, which all of Adobe products allow you to do. It goes, oh, I'm going to save this to a file that's earlier, right? To the 2016 to, CS6, whatever. It allows you to save backwards, and then they can open it up wherever. But the best thing you can do is make it a PDF or a JPEG or a TIFF, whichever ones they say they will print from. But that way it flattens everything. You know that your fonts are there. They're not going to be able to move it. Because if I'm coming over here trying to actually get your font to work and I do this, right, and I leave and then I come back and I'm like, oh, okay, yep, that's where everything is, and I print it and you get it and it's like, oh, well, it was moved over, they're going to say, no, I didn't touch that, I just got you your font and stuff like that. So it's just easier to go ahead and flatten your work when you're trying to send it for someone to either a view or to print, right? Otherwise, they'll tell you if they're like, oh, we want this because you're doing a specific type of printing, like hollow printing or foil printing, and they're like, we need this separately, then they're going to ask you for the font as well, okay? And the image, so anything that you've used, all right? Because when some of you post in JPEG and others don't load too slow to make it PDF. Yep. Got to think about everyone else, right? And not to mention the big one is that Blackboard, I'm still surprised that Blackboard hasn't thrown a fit yet, going, hey, these are too big. So
Probably why the schools can't use it.
yep, because remember,
Completely down yesterday.
yep, because remember, everybody now, not everybody, that's a stretch, but a lot, I would say a good 85% of schools right now, if not more, are on Blackboard. They're using Blackboard Collaborate. Everyone's using the same thing. So if everyone is putting all these high-end images upstairs, sorry. If all of these people are putting all these high-res images and stuff and Photoshop files and raw files and all this stuff onto the computer, we're putting a strain on their servers, which they were not prepared for this. They just weren't. And so that's why I'm like, just save it as a JPEG. It's small, and we get to see everything that's going on. Okay? All right, so we've got 2 left. So let's get those going. Final, we're just going to look at the final. Folder. All right. I mean, those are some neon. I mean, that feels neon, right? It's very bright. It's very strong. The only thing, I mean, you have some. What do you mean? Who's that? Who's what? What are you talking about? Who's what? So I don't think, Tajana, is this a font? Is this part? Is this part of the font? Or did you actually make this font? I'm sorry. No, this is Taylor's. First nostril, my friend said, looks like a serial killer, so I made another logo. So, sorry, wrong person. I was looking at the last one. Taylor, was this font created by someone else and you just typed it in, or did you actually make this font? And the reason why I ask is because you have these little nicks that are out, and that generally happens. This generally happens when you are making your pathway, right? And so you did an anchor point here, you do an anchor point here, the computer connects it, then you do an anchor point here, right? And then you curve it, and then you forget to click on that anchor point again. So then you still have this going on, right? You still have those two antenna going on. And then you come back and you're like, all right, I'm making this curve. So you do a dot here, right? And then it curves, right? And then it curves, and then you have these like sticks, right? You're like, or these very sharp points. And that's because what's happening is that the path is overlapping itself, right? So the thing you have to remember is when you're making these curves, so once you're done with that curve and you're like, all right, I think that's great, you have to tap it again in that anchor point. So then what you have is only one anchor point, one antenna sticking out, right? Because what that's doing is it's stopping it, right? And then you can come in and it flips down. You did not make this font. Okay. So I can tell you, like I said, looking at this, it looks as though there's mistakes made. Okay? I think the font is, I mean, it's nice, it really works, but especially here, it's like, but here and here, it just looks like it was flipped over. Oh, you did buy it from some, okay. So I think that they had that issue, right? Because those are weird leftover marks that just don't make sense in this very nice and smooth, like neon looking thing. Also here, right, this part, that should actually smooth into itself. So right, I was getting rid of some of them and I was wondering why it was like that. Yeah, it's because their pathway, like I said, so whatever they did and they went to make this curve, they forgot to click this anchor point, so then they had these two antenna hanging out. And what instantly happens when you make that curve again is that the first two paths, they cross over, right? And they flip over, and then that's what you get. Okay. Now, with that said, I think the color choices that you picked really work. It's very, very bright, gives off the idea of neon, so I think that's great. The chip, your nacho chip, this one really does, it still needs, all right, it should still have an outline. It should still have a stroke around it, okay? Just because you're trying to highlight it and be like, oh, this is something different. The fact that your chip is that tortilla color, right, while it's still in this red and orange family, it's a different enough color that it sticks out. And if you make the stroke of this a little bit bigger, right, then we really get to see that nacho chip. And if you're going to make a little bit of drip, don't be afraid to make it, right? Don't just give us a little bit. Because remember, you want to make sure that it looks as though you didn't make a mistake. That's the important part. You want to make sure that it doesn't look like you made a mistake, like you did it intentionally, okay? And you are able to do the nice tier step type of logo, right? So that works. That works. But once again, with everyone who's done this and didn't put in the name or use Nice and Nerdy to try and brand this logo, because it's just neon nachos, right? Anybody could do that. That doesn't set anyone apart. If anyone does neon nachos, it's going to be anybody, right? So you need to put a name or something distinct. That's why the words that you are given allows you to play around with that. Okay, so you are able to use the creator's name or the Nice and Nerdy, or a combination of both, but it was up to you. But by leaving them as just neon nachos, that's for anybody. Okay, so we need to have a distinction going on. All right. Okay, last one. Stop. I just found out that alright, last one. Uh-oh. Look at those fonts. All right.
Do you need me to go to school?
All right. Seems fun. Your font, right? So this one seems interesting. I think that the way that you're gonna make you needed to do, well, no, you don't need neon colors. This is fine, but this needs to be bigger. All right, I think you were caught up in the idea of what you were doing with this, and this. Right? If you made these smaller so that it looks more like it's growing or something like that, then that would be better. Right? And I think that these two colors need to switch. Right? At least kind of give us the idea that nachos is the nacho color. Right? Since you're not saying that they're neon, then you should make it a more, tortilla shape, that orangish color that you have up top. So if you change these colors, I think that would work just fine. This definitely needs to, this one right here, this nutritious, needs to occupy this space. Okay, that would need to occupy that space. You said it's throwing you because it's too small, and there was an idea of it kind of vibrating off or giving this kind of drop shadow or something like that. If you did the same, you could even have the 2 bits, but if you had it so that it was smaller, right, so that it just looks more like an effect than its own element, you'd be fine. Okay, and you need a thicker stroke around all of your font. Right, it's really thin. Okay? But I see this, looking at this, because of the font that you've chosen, I see it as nutritious. It gives that nutritious vibe off. So I think that the font choice that you made is great. You need to switch these colors, make nutritious bigger, and then make the stroke thicker. All right? So just some quick fixes on that one, but besides that really works. Gives us the name, gives us what it is, what makes it special, and it's nachos. So good job. I mean, quick fixes. Okay? Where were we? It should be everybody. Yep. All right. So that was everybody. Right? So that's everyone. I think you guys did a good job. Right? Still, some need to work on the creativeness of what we're going on, because once again, like I said, and we've discussed before, we want to stay away from clip art because everyone can do that. Right? Everyone can take just a picture and slap some text on it and call it done. But that's not what makes a graphic designer, right? We need to work on the spacing, the composition, the color theory. All those kind of things are very important when it comes to these logos. And the number one thing that you have to remember is that your logo is telling us about the company or the product, okay? So if it's not, then it's not going to work, right? And remember, especially with something like this, there's nachos, right? But there's so many nachos, so you got to give us something specific. Okay? All right, so today I will put up the assessment for the poster design so that you guys can put that in. Remember, it'll be due on Monday. No, what are we on? Thursday. It's going to be due on Thursday. Can we look at the second one? Where's the second one? Where's the second one? I didn't see a second one. Oh, the runner up? Okay, here. He's not creepy. Nerdy neon nachos? No. I think that one's fine. I would flip the nacho. Well, I would actually just turn the chip a little bit, just so that it's not as straight and it gives us a nice, interesting angle for your nacho chip. The mouth needs to be a little bit thicker so that we can really see that, but I think this one would be fine. You can even throw a nice neon outline around it. Yeah, this one would have been fine. It's not... I don't see it as creepy. Not at all. Ah. Yeah. I think this one's cute. Needs an outline, though. The chip itself needs a stroke. Alright. So, posters are due on Thursday. I'll put the assessment up today. And then on Thursday, you're going to get your final. And we'll talk about what it's about and how we go from there. Okay? Like what you need to do, why it's important, and stuff like that. Alright? You guys are doing great. Don't forget, you've got 2 weeks to finish up those sketchbooks. Alright? Don't forget, those are going to be due on the last day. So make sure you have them. It's a big part of your grade. Okay? Alright. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, complaints before I sign off? Then I'll let you guys get to work. What is the last day? The last day is the 30th. April 30th. How do we do it Thursday? How do you do it digitally? PDF. Put each one that you're counting as a page into its own page, and then put them all together in one PDF. Next logo, yes, Jasmine. I'll make sure to put up your logo today. Okay? I'll put it in the discussion board. I'll put it up today. I promise. How many on one page? What do we say? Yeah, digitally you needed at least two. 2 things? 2 or 3? No. 2. You need at least 2 things on... Look, it's for your benefit. If you think you're cheating, you're cheating. Okay? If you think you've put enough on there, you have.
Unless you use reference, that's not cheating.
The recording part was for if you did everything traditionally. If you're doing everything traditionally, then you just flip through your book, right? And as you flip, it's like, okay, there you go. Yeah, you do need 100 pages, though, because it was midterm and final. Right? Trying to make up for all those people who messed up on their midterm. All right? Good? Good, good, good? All right. Well then, I will... Oh, wait. Can we combine digital pages with our sketchbook? Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. One or the other. Or one or the other. Yep. Whatever makes you happy. We're trying not to make this a problem. Okay? It's 50 pages for the final and 50 pages for the midterm for those of you who didn't do it. Total of 100. So check your grades, right? Go to Blackboard, check it, and if you got a horribleness in your grade, you're going to have to turn in 50 pages. Oh, I mean 100 pages at the end. Okay? All right. You guys did a good job. And keep up the good work. And let's knock these last 2 projects out. Make sure they're awesome. All right? I'll see you guys on Thursday. See you later.